Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for the warm welcome, and definitely excited to be back here to meeting people in person, then over screens and computer screens and tabs and etc. So yeah, looking forward to this. So today we're going to be talking about, I think the previous panel spoke a lot about digitization. Here we are actually going to be talking about digitization of customer interaction and how this has actually been accelerating in the recent past in the entire financial segment. I mean, just a quick intro about myself. I think most of it was given already. Basically, I handle enterprise marketing for the firm called Exitel. We're actually, we call ourselves one Exo at this point in time. It's Exitel plus Amio plus Cogno. It's a combination of 3 companies, right? Let's get started. Yeah, so I think this is something that was covered in the last panel. We actually live in like a ever-changing world, right? In fact, post-pandemic, a lot of things are, I mean, at least few things are coming back to normal. Like for instance, us being here in this room, talking to each other in person is definitely coming back to normal. But few things are still unchanged, right? And it's going to stay the same. And one such thing is the customer interaction, right? So in fact, customer expectation and customer interaction has actually changed quite a bit since the pandemic. And that's exactly what most companies are here to basically adopt ways in which they can actually meet this changing customer expectation. And companies are doing multiple things. So, I mean, I'll probably classify them into 3 broad areas, what companies are focusing on. One is basically workforce, right? So enabling the workforce from wherever they are. They can be on-premise, they can be working from office, they can be working from their home, they can be working on the field, wherever they are, enabling them with the best possible channel, the best possible technology to talk to their customers. I think that's one first change that most companies are doing. And the second thing is basically channels, enabling multiple channels. So in fact, the customer is expected to communicate with you as a business over multiple channels. And enabling all these workflows across different work locations to communicate with the customer across all of these channels is another key thing that most companies are looking to do. And the third thing is technology. Again, technology is a broad term, and in fact here I wanted to specify about AI and use of natural language processing to basically make this entire communication easier and simpler for the customer. Again, all of this are aimed towards meeting that rising customer interaction or customer expectations, right? So let's move on. I mean, talking about customer interaction and engagement, so these are all the different stakeholders that you generally see in any financial institution, for that matter, right? Who is going to be talking to your customers. So it could be, it's not just the communication that happens between your customer support agent and the customer, right? It's also the customer communication that happens between your, say, your relationship manager and the customer, sales agent and the customer. It can also go outside your organization. So your outsourced BPO and your customer, your outsourced or your dealers and your customer, consultants and your customer, and etc. So there's communication happening across various channels, not just within your organization, also with your extended organization. But one challenge here is that how do you enable all of these channels to communicate the same language to the customer, to basically not break that experience or not break that continuity? And secondly, how do you actually get data or this communication data that is being going to the customer from across all of these functions that's actually talking to the customer? So that is one of the key challenges that most companies are facing at this point. In fact, the next slide will actually tell you how cluttered it looks like, right? So here you can see multiple functions who are actually talking to your customers on a daily basis. You might see marketing team who's talking to your customers, your sales team talking to your customers, your on-field team, relationship team, and multiple other customers, any customer support team. In fact, you can actually go deeper into each of these functions. Each of these functions have sub-functions for every product. So, and all of them are using multiple channels, ranging from voice, SMS, your contact center, video contact center, WhatsApp, and etc., right? And imagine all of these sub-functions using all these channels and trying to get data from all of them, right? So, and in fact, even if I ask one of you here, who are you working with for your SMS vendor, who are you working with for your contact center, who are you working for your email, I'm sure at least 90% of you will give me different vendor names, right? So imagine getting data from each of these vendors and putting together in one place and then giving, basically giving some thought or meaningful way in which you can actually communicate with your customers. So that's the key challenge that most companies are looking to solve. So that's basically what a multi-vendor dependency does for you, right? And in fact, this also has isolated all these channels. That is, most of these channels are working in silos. That is, for example, if I'm chatting with someone on WhatsApp, an agent on WhatsApp regarding a loan process, if I call an agent, he does not have any context on what was happening on chat, right? So most of these channels are actually working in silos. So both of these multi-vendor dependency and your siloed communication, what this does is it creates a broken experience, customer experience, right? Or rather, incomplete customer experience, you could say. And that is where I think that this is the issue that is being addressed, right? So how do we address this? I mean, broadly, I mean, in one word, digitization would be the answer. But if I have to classify this and put this in form of steps, again, strictly talking from a communication platform perspective, we can split them into assistance, automation, and integration, right? I'm going to go over each of them one by one. I'm not going to go too specific into them. I'm going to talk about some of the popular technology that is there in each of these steps that is actually being utilized by the customer. So let's talk about assistance, right? So all of us here need assistance, right? Be it whatever, like be it filling forms like these, complex forms like, say, filling your loan application forms, filling a form when you want to open a bank account, and etc. Some of these have become easier. In fact, government has made it necessarily easier to a lot of people by ensuring that digitization is a mandatory. But even after this, there is a lot of friction, right? In fact, most of us digital savvy folks might find this trivial, might find remote assistance to be trivial. It's not really the case. In fact, while I was filling my tax return forms, filing when I was doing, I would have actually, it would have helped a lot if I had someone who took me along the way, right? So that shows that there is a clear friction in the form of form filling, right? So, and this is something that most companies are trying to address. So imagine your customers who are coming till the form filling stage and they're actually dropping off. That's basically a cost to your company, cost to that organization. And this challenge is trying to be, again, most companies are trying to solve this challenge. So, I mean, we've spoken a lot about this. Let's take a quick commercial break. Just kidding, I just want to show you how Bajaj Alliance is actually looking to solve this. Hopefully this video will play. You can hear it from Ayushmann Khurrana himself. So.
मेरा नेव्यू बंटी अकेले साइकिल चलाने से घबराता है, तो उसका एक्सपर्ट चाचू का कम आएगा। साथ साथ चलाएंगे और डर को भगाएंगे। स्मार्ट ना, जैसे बजाज आलियांज लाइफ स्मार्ट असिस्ट, जो आपको इंश्योरेंस एक्सपर्ट के साथ कनेक्ट करे और स्क्रीन शेयरिंग पे प्लान डिटेल से लेकर फॉर्म भरने तक सारा काम चुटकियों में कर दे। स्मार्ट ना, आज ही बिना मिले मिलकर स्मार्ट असिस्ट स्क्रीन शेयर के साथ पॉलिसी खरीद लो, लाइफ गोल्स पूरे कर लो। समझो हो गया।
All right, that was definitely more like an ad, but one second. Yeah, so in fact, like what he spoke about there, I really like the analogy that he took, right? So when you're trying to learn a bike, to ride a bike, obviously things are going to be a lot easier when you have someone assisting you. And that's exactly what the solution that I'm going to talk about, which is called co-browsing solution. Basically, imagine while you're filling your form, you have your agent who's live with you and is actually sharing his screen live with you and is actually assisting you through every step of the way. Be it on chat, be it on voice, be it on WhatsApp, whichever channel, but he's basically sharing his screen and he's actually assisting you on how you can get it done. So, I mean, obviously this has a lot of benefits. So, I mean, two most important benefits is one, improved first-time conversion, right? So when I say first-time conversion, we just spoke about drop-offs. So now you can actually limit all of those drop-offs by ensuring that your customer goes all the way, right? He doesn't drop off at the form filling stage. And next, the other important thing is that, in fact, if you observe, 30 to 40% of the queries that come to your support agents are actually about what do I fill here, I have doubts about some of the products, and all of these are the general questions that comes to these support center teams, right? And all of these can actually be resolved much quicker and much faster with such a solution. And that's where we're actually being able to add a clear value when it comes to Smart Assist. I mean, the next part we spoke about was automation, right? I mean, automation is actually a very widely used term at this point in time. In fact, what is automation? I mean, putting a IVR layer on top of your customer support is also automation. But is it automation in its true sense? Maybe not, right? I mean, if you think about it, there are a lot of static conversation that happens, again, across all your functions. Say at a sales level, there's a bunch of static conversation that happens. It could be inquiry about the product, it could be inquiry about the service, etc., right? And similarly, at an agent level or a customer support level, there are again a bunch of static queries that happens. At a collection level, again, there are a bunch of static queries. So all of these things can actually be automated, right? So imagine you have a bot at each of these functions, which is actually trained to answer all of these questions, and is now able to also communicate with one another, not just with the customer, but also with one another. That's where integration comes in the next step. But that is automation in its true sense, right? And that is what most companies are aiming towards. In fact, towards the end of the solution, I'll give you a real-life example of how all of these three would actually make a complete experience for the customer. In fact, these has multiple value adds again. I think, like you can see on the screen, now you can actually assist the customer any point in time. You don't really have to have an agent at the background, right? You can still ensure that when the customer comes on board, he is assisted to it no matter what. So which leads to better CSAT, better satisfaction for sure. And of course, you're trying to reduce the entire load on your customer support team or any other functional team for that matter, sales team and etc. So it also has a huge impact on your cost. So in fact, I'll just show you how much of an impact it has on your cost. So this is one of the examples of how we've been working with Kotak Group of companies. And what we do for them is basically we have enabled bots across all the channels for their particular, like their top of the funnel function, right? So, and what we're doing is, in fact, if you observe here, you'll see both the website and the WhatsApp speaks the same language, right? So, it's all about how you're actually talking to the customer in the same language across all your channels. And that is what matters. So, and this is the same across a Facebook or a Facebook bot, or if you go to any other channel, you'll see very similar language. And this has actually helped them reduce all of the things that I spoke about. Especially when it comes to cost, they've been able to save almost 30 to 40 CR a year, right? I mean, that's a huge number. I mean, if you actually come to our booth probably after the session, we can discuss offline on exactly how they went about doing this, or how you can do this for your company, right? So this is one prime example that shows the impact of automation. The third part is integration, right? In fact, I briefly touched upon this topic in the cluttered slide that we showed. This is basically the uncluttered version of it, right? So in an ideal scenario, imagine you have all your channels, be it a voice bot, be it a chat bot, be it a WhatsApp bot, call center, video call center, etc., which is in a single platform, right? And on top of that, you have all your functions, multiple teams who's accessing data from a single platform again, right? So, and now at the bottom of it all, you have one AI layer which is going to talk between every channel and is also going to give you insights on what exactly happened on that channel, right? So now this sort of a system with customer in between will probably give you the most complete experience that you can give to a customer, right? And that is exactly what we are trying to do at 1XO. In fact, what we have is basically we have all the channels that you can think of from a communication standpoint, whatever that I spoke to you earlier, and we have all the functions. It could be like a cloud contact center function, or a cloud phone function, or a cloud platform, right? So it could be your on-prem team talking to your customers, or it could be your on-field agents who are talking through their mobile application, or it could be your work-from-home agents who are trying to log log into their system and trying to call from the system, right? So it can be any of your customer-facing teams who's talking to the customer and from any function, right? They can now leverage all the channels, and they'll have an AI layer and a bot layer which is running on top of all of them to talk between each of these channels. And this makes it a lot more easier. In fact, this gives you a bird's eye view of every customer across every stage of his buying cycle, right? So now you know exactly at this particular stage what all are the touch points I'm having for this customer. Say at onboarding stage, what all are the touch points I'm having. And each of these touch points are communicated to the relevant teams so that they have context on what happened to the customer in the previous journey before talking to them, right? So that gives a wholesome experience to a customer. And this is what we call customer data platform, in fact, right? So in fact, most CDP players out there are trying to do this with complicated systems, integrated systems. And here we're trying to make their life much easier. So I want to talk about an example. I spoke to you earlier that I'll give you a real-life example, right? So I'm going to give you an example of how a remote insurance purchasing experience looks like, right, with a complete experience. So imagine an insurance buyer actually comes on your platform, and you're actually capturing that lead. So now imagine there's a bot. Again, this bot, he need not come to your website. He can be wherever your CTAs are. He can come wherever, whichever channel you guys publish your CTAs. Now, the bot actually interacts with the customer and tries to understand what exactly the customer wants and fixes up a meeting or books appointment slots between the customer and the available sales manager or the relationship manager, right? And then your relationship manager actually sets up a call. Basically, your AI comes in, it analyzes the context of that particular chat, and then it basically sets up a call with the relationship manager. And the relationship manager then has a call, or say the sales manager has a call with the customer. It could be over video chat, or it could be over a regular voice call, it could be over SMS, WhatsApp, etc. Right? Post this, say the customer is interested, he's moving to a consultation stage, and he wants to start filling forms. Then you have another agent who has complete context of what happened till now, who's going to be talking to the customer, basically assisting him through the entire process so that he can have a seamless experience now, right? And then all of this data is now available to all your post-sale teams as well, right? It could be a customer support team, it could be a relationship management team. So now they'll have complete context of that customer, right? So your customer support team can now solve all the queries. They can actually be even proactive and go to the customer and say, this is what you are facing right now, I can help you solve this, right? And instead of being reactive, which is what most of the teams do right now, we can be more proactive. And your relationship management team or your upselling team and etc. or your collection team can actually again be more proactive. So everything will be data-based, right? So the data will be accessible at one point. That is what a single stack provider like OneXO will help you. So that probably brings me to the end of the slide, or end of the session. Basically, I just wanted to leave you guys with a bit of what we do. These are some of the customers. So in fact, we started off about 11 years back. 11 to 12 years back. 2011 is when we started off. And in fact, currently we actually work with 6,000 plus customers. I mean, like I told you earlier, we are actually, recently we actually merged with Amio, and we also acquired this company called Cogno. So Exital was the leading cloud telephony player, and then Amio was the leading contact center player, and then we had Cogno, who's one of the most popular player in the entire BFS segment. If you've used an AI chatbot, you would have come across Cogno, right? So now, with all these three coming together, we are actually able to give you a single platform that can give you all communication platform that you can think of with the AI layer on top of it. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. And yeah. Hopefully you guys will help us get there. All right, that's it from my side. If you guys have any questions. Thank you so much, guys.